You might have noticed there are a lot of boats and water in today's service. I didn't do it on purpose exactly. It is just what spoke to me when I was thinking about the kind of courage we might need in the years ahead. Maybe it's because boats require my courage. I think most of you know that I am prone to severe seasickness. And by prone to, I mean I absolutely 100% get intensely seasick every time I am on the water and sometimes when I am in the water. I get seasick in canoes on lakes. I know. I get seasick floating in ocean waves. I get seasick standing on a dock. And I get seasick looking at waves on TV. I know. I wish I were kidding. Do you remember that movie, The Perfect Storm? Yeah. The previews nearly killed me. So I went on a whale watch one time in my life, not realizing what I was in for. And let's just say I saw no whales. And not because there weren't whales. There were, apparently, glorious whales jumping out of the ocean and breaching and spouting all around the boat. But I did not see them because I was too busy throwing up and praying for God to take me. And if hell is personalized, which I really hope it isn't, but if it is, mine is going to be an eternal whale watch. And all of this is ironic because I grew up in Newburyport on the ocean. I love the ocean. I love the smell of it and the sound of it and the rhythm of it and the vastness of it. But I cannot be in it. At least I couldn't be in it until scopolamine patches were invented and then recommended to me by a friend who's equally afflicted. I wore one to take the ferry to Martha's Vineyard recently, and it worked like a charm. Now, of course, the crossing on the ferry to Martha's Vineyard was smoother than driving on a highway, but still it gave me hope. A whole new world might be opening up to me. But I realize that more than half a century of severe seasickness has taught me some things that might be useful at this particular moment in time. This moment when many of us are still reeling, still cycling through the various stages of grief, denial, anger, depression, numbness, disbelief, blame, sorrow. This moment when we need to prepare ourselves for what is ahead, which is to carry our values into the public arena, our values of truth, justice, fairness, integrity, the protection of the most vulnerable people and the protection of the earth. So this is probably a pretty good time for the lessons of seasickness, since many of us are feeling pretty nauseated and dizzy anyway. So here's what I know. When you are seasick, you have to keep your eyes fixed on the horizon. If you look down at the waves right underneath the boat, you are absolutely doomed. You have to keep your focus on the distance. You have to keep the longer view in your sight pretty much constantly. Alan and I went on our honeymoon to Ireland, and we took this tiny little ferry, which felt more like a dinghy, to one of the Aryan islands, Inishmore. It was about an hour each way, and I knew it was going to be bad, but I really wanted to go. So the seas were choppy. It felt like 10 hours. But Alan will confirm that I did not move my head the entire way there and back. I did not turn my gaze from the horizon for one single second. The horizon helps, and this is true now. We have to remember the longer view. This too shall pass. And like the pandemic years, not everyone will be okay in the long run. Not everyone will make it through. And not everyone will make it through unhurt. Probably none of us will make it through unchanged. But the fact that we are here this morning is testament to the fact that we survived those years. We are older now. We are hopefully stronger and wiser. And we know we can do hard things because we have already done them. That is very important to remember. We can do hard things. It's not a theory, it's a simple fact. Paradoxically, even as we keep our gaze fixed on the horizon, we need to act close in. As Clarissa Pinkola Estes put it so beautifully, ours is not the task of fixing the entire world, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another. So we can ask ourselves, starting now, what is the small, calm thing I can do? Right here, right where I live, where I work, where I am. It might feel meaningless and unimportant. How can my one tiny little anything make a difference? But Clarissa Pinkola Estes reminds us it's not given to us to know which acts by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. So we need to get clear about our work. We need to know what is the work that we are capable of doing and what we feel called to do. We need to know what we love and what we're good at. If you are an artist, make art and find a way to get it to those who need to see or hear it. If you are a baker, bake for the good of the people who need sweetness in their lives. If you feel called to protect the environment or trans children, who's already doing it and how can you support them? Each of us needs to find our way to resist the waves of cruelty that may be coming. And not just for those who may need our help, but for our own sake. For the sake of being part of that great persevering wave. For the sake of trying to tip the critical mass toward the good. The second thing I know about surviving seasickness is that you have to make yourself as comfortable as possible. You have to be as well as possible. So you go out on deck into the fresh air and the wind, which usually helps. You wear comfortable clothes, nothing too tight, don't get overheated. You bring your water bottle and your hot tea, you listen to your favorite music, you nap if you can. I cannot because it means taking my eyes off the horizon, but some people swear by it. In other words, take care of yourself as best you can, even in the midst of suffering, especially in the midst of suffering. And this is also true now. We all need to be as strong and well as we possibly can be, because this is not going to be a short boat ride, and I think the seas are probably going to get rough. So we need to strengthen our capacity to persevere and to continue persevering on behalf of the values of our faith. We need to cultivate our own emotional and spiritual resilience starting now, and we need to understand what that even means. What makes your spirit stronger? Going out into the fresh air and the wind usually helps for spirit strengthening too, but so do 1,000 other things. Music, singing, walking the dog, making soup, making art, meditating, praying, reading poems, bike rides, having coffee with a friend. You need to know your things. And more importantly, start practicing them. Start making time for them. Think about it like you're going to the gym for your spirit. Because your strength and your sturdiness matters. Again, it is not just for you. It is for all of us. And finally, and this may seem counterintuitive to the non-seasick, but fighting the ocean makes things worse. If we try to brace ourselves against every wave, if we stay tense and clenched up, the waves just hit harder and we get knocked over, or in my case at least, throw up more. I have learned that I have to lean into the rhythm of the boat. I have to let myself float with the waves sometimes, or I can't take it. This doesn't mean that we don't counter, that we don't resist, but it does mean that we cannot resist from a place of hardness, of unyielding stiffness. We cannot resist from a place of hatred and rage because it will break us. And the world that most of us yearn for cannot be built from hatred and rage. So we're going to have to find some softness in all of this. Because in the long run, that world can only be sustained by love. But I believe that we can be light for one another. We can be souls shining on deck. We can be lighthouses. We are tired, seasick sailors, but we can still find our way home.